From Shazam being completely lost in the DCU to Justice League being a fail, here are the DCEU movies that had terrible opening days. Looks like Shazam! Fury of the Gods is not doing so hot at the box office. In fact, it's expected to have one of the weakest opening weekends in DCEU history. Yikes! And remember that flick Black Adam, which starred Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Well, it got slammed by critics and only managed to break even at the box office. Apparently, James Gunn and Peter Safran are now co-CEOs of DC Studios, and they're planning to kick off a new era with Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters in 2023. It all starts with Superman Legacy, which comes after The Flash resets the universe. Kind of. But let's be real, all these changes are causing some serious confusion. Like, we've got Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom coming out this year. And on top of that, poor Shazam 2 is feeling completely lost in the DC cosmos. No wonder it's not expected to do well at the box office. Box Office Pro is forecasting that the movie will only earn between $43 and $52 million during its opening weekend. Now, on the bright side, that's still enough to make it the highest grossing movie during the weekend starting March 17th. But when you compare it to previous DC movies, it's not looking so hot. Even if it hits the high-end projection of $52 million, it still wouldn't beat 2019 Shazam, which had the lowest opening in the DCEU with $53.5 million. It's interesting to note that even though the original Shazam didn't make a ton of money, yeah, the movie people think $363.6 million worldwide is less. Anyway, back to the point. It still received positive reviews and generated enough interest to get a sequel greenlit. Now, when it comes to opening weekend numbers, the weakest DCEU movie is actually Birds of Prey, but there's more to it than meets the eye. If the upcoming Shazam performs poorly, it could be considered a massive failure, especially considering it's a light-hearted hero movie. Birds of Prey had the excuse of being rated R, and a spin-off from the widely detested Suicide Squad movie from 2016, so it's not really a fair comparison. It seems like fans are losing interest in the current DC slate. They're a little skeptical about the success of James Gunn's future plans could further impact the franchise. When James Gunn and Peter Safran announced the future of the DC universe on January 31st, fans expressed concerns about how the upcoming 4 movies slated for release in 2023 would fare at the box office. While the Batgirl movie was completely scrapped due to being deemed not releasable, there are still hopes for Shazam 2. With a reported budget of only $125 million and a wide theatrical release, the movie could still turn a profit, even if it underperforms at the box office compared to other DC movies. It seems like DC Studios is willing to sacrifice short-term gains for long-term success. By investing in these movies and taking creative risks, they're hoping to build a brighter tomorrow for the DC universe. Only time will tell if their strategy pays off. While the success of Shazam 2 doesn't make or break for the future of the DC universe, a poor critical reception could still impact the earnings potential of upcoming movies, like The Flash and Aquaman 2, which have higher commercial expectations. In today's movie landscape, sequels tend to dominate, and even comparable comic book movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania can still earn over $100 million during their opening weekend, despite receiving negative reviews. With less than a month until its release on March 17th, it remains to be seen whether Shazam! Fury of the Gods will be able to meet expectations and soar at the box office. Now, let's talk about the movie, which was, well, something. I'm talking about Birds of Prey. Despite receiving positive reviews from critics, Birds of Prey had a disappointing opening weekend at the box office, earning only $33.2 million. This is the worst opening for any DC Extended Universe movie to date, falling short of Shazam's opening weekend by nearly $20 million. Additionally, the movie opened with almost $100 million less for its first weekend than Suicide Squad, the movie it was spun off from. This has led to concerns that Birds of Prey may become the first DCEU movie to gross less than $100 million in the United States. There are several reasons why the movie struggled at the box office. For one, Suicide Squad may have been a financial success, but it was not well received by audiences, and the fact that Birds of Prey looked similar to it may have not appealed to potential viewers, especially those who had just seen Joker's dark and bleak side of the DC universe. Also, Suicide Squad had several bankable stars, like Will Smith, Jared Leto, and Viola Davis, while Birds of Prey relied solely on the presence of Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Furthermore, the movie's R rating and graphic violence may have turned off younger viewers who were Harley Quinn fans. So, looking at the success of Joker and a movie like Bird Prey, it's certainly possible that Warner Bros. May shift their focus to more standalone, adult-oriented movies. However, it's also unclear if Joker's success can be replicated consistently with other characters in the DC universe. Speaking of Joker's success, there's another movie that broke the box office for all the wrong reasons. Justice League faced many challenges in its production, which likely contributed to its disappointing box office performance. The negative publicity surrounding the movie, including reports of reshoots, a change in directors, budget issues, may have hurt its chances of success. Additionally, while DC fans may appreciate the darker tone of Zack Snyder's work on the series, the mainstream audience may be tired of it, as evidenced by the success of the more lighthearted Wonder Woman. The lower than expected box office numbers for Justice League may prompt Warner Bros. To reevaluate their approach to the DCEU. The global box office performance of Justice League does provide some consolation for Warner Bros. But it's important to note that the international box office typically has a lower profit margin for studios than the domestic box office, as they have to share a larger portion of the revenue with foreign distributors. What's more, the movie's reported budget of around $300 million means that it still has a long way to go before it can be considered a financial success. While the movie may have been able to make some ground, it was difficult for it to match the success of other superhero team-up movies, like The Avengers, or even Warner Bros.' own Batman vs. Superman. Well, Justice League might not have been the box office smash hit Warner Bros. Was hoping for, but hey, at least it's not Green Lantern level bad, am I right? And let's not forget, Batman and Robin killed the franchise for 8 long years. So chin up, DC fans, things could be worse. And who knows, with the lovable Aquaman leading the way this year, maybe the DCEU will rise again, like a superhero phoenix from the ashes. Just don't count on Batman's nipples to save the day this time around. Speaking of doing good, DCU is still the ultimate superhero franchise. Even though Marvel is killing it with their superhero movies, DC's Justice League managed to beat Thor Ragnarok at the box office. Well, Thor is still way ahead when it comes to end-of-year numbers, but when it comes to the ultimate champion of superhero franchises, DC is still on top. Their average opening figure is $127.3 million, compared to Marvel's $124.1 million. Looks like the battle between these two comic book giants is still going strong, but we know who's on top. And there you have it about DCEU movies that had terrible opening days.